My name is Justin Davis, I'm 32 and I'm from a small town in Gloucestershire called Lechlade. I lost both of my legs in Afghanistan back in 2011. This particular day we were tasked with a QRF patrol, which is a quick reaction force patrol, and we were reacting to an ambush set by the Taliban. They had ambushed another group of British soldiers, and it was our job then to go down and intercept them, cut the Taliban off, and kind of extract the guys that had been ambushed out of the killing area. On that particular day, I was tasked with searching, so I was looking for the IEDs in the ground, and to do that we'd use a specific piece of equipment. As we were patrolling down, I was at the front of the patrol and I'm searching with the metal detector as we go, and we're moving through built up areas, open areas, through fields, through irrigation ditches with water in, across muddy fields, undulating terrain, and also kind of moving through tree lines as well. So on the edge of the fields there would always be an irrigation ditch, but there might also be a row of trees as well. Now inside the row of trees there are usually IEDs, so they're improvised explosive devices. And as I was making my way through the tree line and through the irrigation ditch, when I came out the other side and I was searching, I unfortunately stood on an IED with my right foot. My right foot went directly on top of it, and that was it then. My right foot, as it detonated, my right foot was gone and my left leg was just hanging on. I remember the second that it went off, and I remember being confused about what had happened for probably what felt like an eternity, but it was probably a few seconds. It felt like hours. I was like, what's going on, what's happened? I actually thought I was dreaming at the time, and I thought I was asleep and I thought I'd wake up. But when that didn't happen and the reality struck, I was completely shocked, So my body and my mind took a while to catch up with each other. There was confusion, fear, and I'd say shock as well was in there. Coming to terms with not having my legs anymore has been I think it's an ongoing process. It's not something that you reach a specific point and you say, I've now come to terms with it. I think the amount of trauma that your nervous system and your entire body has to go through is all encompassing, and it's not just, there's no on and off switch for it. It's once you've gone through that level of trauma, I believe that a part of that will be with you forever, but it's about gradually improving as you go. The earliest years were the hardest. I'd say I've adapted well to it now. I'm 10 years past the injury now, so I'd say I'm in a much better place than I was right at the beginning of the journey, but it's still ongoing. I'm still healing from it. The incident changed my life in every possible way, from how I move around in the world, how I viewed the world, how the world viewed me. Every single physical movement that I do in the day, in every day, has to be thought about and has to be planned. And although that process has got easier and it's become more intuitive, there's still a level of thought that goes into every single movement that I do. So just like standing up or sitting down or walking from one surface to the next. So it's changed my life in every way possible, but not necessarily in a negative way. There's also been a lot of positives as well. I've been able to go to places, meet people and do things that I would never have done before that I got injured. So it's not all dark and terrible. There have been a lot of huge amount of positives that have come from the incident as well. I got into mountaineering because it was basically after my last major surgery, I decided that I need to challenge myself physically and psychologically. So I wanted to combine those two elements. I'd spent the last sort of 6 and 7 years mostly going through countless surgeries, and throughout that process I was always set back by maybe my stumps weren't in a good condition, because when I was walking about I'd get different sort of rubs and sores and wounds and stuff inside my prosthetics. So for the first 6 or 7 years I was constantly going through the process of like using my legs, causing an injury to them, and then having to rest. So during that period I had, you know, probably 10 to 15 surgeries, different surgeries, to try and repair and replace and get myself to a better position. So when I got to kind of the 7-year point and I'd recovered, or I'd say it was probably 8-year point where I'd recovered from all of my surgeries, I then had to test myself physically and psychologically. So the way I wanted to do it was to take on an extraordinary challenge, something that I'd never done before. And the mountains just kind of jumped out at me. They just kind of found me. You know, I was doing like internet searches for different sort of challenges and endurance events and working out, would I be able to do these things? How much help would I need to do them? Could I do this by myself? And then I stumbled across a couple of friends that had been injured a little bit longer than me, and they were climbing in the mountains, and I was observing them from a distance, and then began talking to them and asking them about, you know, how they did it and who they went with. And from there, I kind of like worked out that it was possible. So the first mountain I went to was Mont Blanc, which was, for me, the first mountain outside of something in the UK, which is only 1,000 meters maximum. I then went and summited, you know, Mont Blanc in the Alps, which is the highest mountain in Western Europe. So for me, it was an incredible kind of release of all the trauma that I'd been through, and it was kind of like a moment in time that I realized that I'd actually been successful throughout this whole period of rehabilitation and recovery, you know, and that took 7, nearly 8 years for me to get there. So yeah, the mountains found me, but kind of since they found me, I haven't been able to let go of them. And I always spot another challenge, and every single mountain is completely different. So it takes different effort, it takes different planning. And for me, that kind of ever-moving goal of looking for a different mountain, a different challenge, I think is what kind of keeps me going back to them. Plans for this year, yeah, they're materializing as we speak. We're hoping to go to Nepal in March to climb a mountain called Mirror Peak. That's over 6,000 meters. So again, it's more altitude than I've ever done before. It's probably going to be 3 weeks on the mountain, and we're going to try and replicate an expedition going higher up. So this will be good groundwork for then going on and doing like 7,000 meter mountains, and then also up to 8,000 meter mountains. So yeah, 3 weeks hopefully in Nepal in March, and then following that in July we're going to go and climb 2 mountains in the same month, and we're going to go and climb the Matterhorn, which is over 4,000 meters, iconic mountain in Switzerland, and then from there we're going to go climb Mount Elbrus, which is in Russia. And again, Elbrus can be a brutal mountain. It's exposed. There's a lot of weather. Temperatures are dropping extremely low. So there'll be multiple different challenges in all of these mountains, but they'll be unique each time, and that's what we're aiming for. So yeah, those are the 3 mountains we're hopefully going to climb this year. I'd like other people to know that as hard as it is at the beginning, it does get easier. And I mean, that sounds a little bit wishy-washy, doesn't it? But I mean, it genuinely does. And I can take myself back to the times when I was like laid up in hospital beds, and like I didn't even know if I'd ever walk again. So I'd like other people to know that the journey gets easier, but it's only going to get easier if you put the time in and put the effort in. I've worked so hard over the last 10 years to get myself to this position. There was no way I'd be where I am now without the sheer determination and effort that I put in throughout. So it's almost like if you spoken to like a top level athlete or Olympic athlete, you hear them talking about having to make commitments and having to, you know, sacrifice time and going to parties, going to events. Well, there were lots of periods where I had to do that to enable to better myself, and there was no way I was going to do it if I was constantly bringing myself down, going down unhealthy routes and unhealthy habits. So I knew that the only way to progress was to kind of think about what the right thing to do is and actually do it and action it, and not just sit and think about it. So it's action taking. And I've always valued my ability to take action as well and push it. So for anyone else out there in a similar position to myself, you have to take the action, but you just have to be so committed and so willing. You have to really want it, but there's certainly hope for it. You know, it's not the end of the world. There'll be a new beginning for you. It might take a few years, or it might even take you a decade, but you will get there. My name is Justin Davis, and this is my voice.